Hello and welcome to my campaign to keep Britain gardening, #KeepTheNationGardening. The idea of this is to get some fresh air. I know you'll still be isolated when you're outside, but at least you're out in nature, you're out in your private garden and doing a little bit of gardening. It's great exercise if you've got a bit of digging to do or you're sweeping up, but today I'm taking it easy. I'm just kind of building myself up into this and I'm deadheading this Mophead Hydrangea. That's a bit of a mouthful. This is a hydrangea, a white one called Nymph. It turns a beautiful pinkish kind of shade later on in the year, and it's had these kind of crispy biscuity beige, as the romantics would call them, dead as my mother would call them, heads left on over the winter to protect the new foliage. And although it's not been particularly cold, now at the end of March is the perfect time to remove them. So you want to take them off just above the new growth, and you don't want to cut back into old wood with a traditional Mophead hydrangea like this, because you will cut off the flowering stems. These flower on wood that was ripened last summer. So just cut the dead heads off, and that's all there is to this really low maintenance plant. Okay, so our very first question comes from Ruth. Thank you, Ruth, for sending yours in. It was, how can I propagate my rosemary plant? Now, if it was later in the summer or early autumn, you could use some semi-ripe cuttings and you could take a section of this and propagate it from that. But because we are in March, late March, that's not a great idea. So what you could do at this time of year is create a layered cutting. So basically what that means is you need to find quite a long piece of the rosemary plant, something quite flexible. If you wiggle it about a bit, you will get a bit more flexibility in that wood. I'm doing this in 2 pots just so that I can show you, but it's better if you do it in the ground. So what you would do, you want to leave about 10 centimetres, 3 inches on the plant, and then remove a section of leaves. You can be quite rough about this. There's no particular technique with that. Rosemary doesn't mind. And then with a pair of scissors or a knife, carefully remove some of the bark in that section. And you just want to go through to that green layer. It's called a cambium layer. You're just removing that hardened bark, that's all, no more. And then we're going to pin that down into the compost. I'm just using a couple of pieces of wire that I found in the shed. I'm loving this whole like make do and mend thing that we've got going on at the moment because we can't go out anywhere. And then if I hold this up, you can see, just pin that into the soil where you've scraped off that bark and cover it over with soil, and that should produce roots from underneath where you've removed the bark, and then within a few weeks time you will have your own new rosemary plant. The second job I'm going to be doing today is just taking off the dead foliage from the salvias. They are sold as a bedding plant, but they are a perennial, and that's been proven this year because it's been quite mild. These ones are just starting back into growth. There's a little bit of frost damage you can just see on the ends of these here. But if I cut these back to the new buds at the base, I should get another year's flowers out of them, as long as we don't have a really bad late frost. So cutting these back now will not only save me a few pounds, but it also mean that these start growing earlier than I would probably have put them out if they were bedding plants. Until tomorrow, goodbye.